All right, lesson 92. Other elements of poetic music. Now, you're going to be familiar with a lot of these, but the first one they talk about here is alliteration. Now, alliteration, as you probably know, is the repetition of beginning consonant sounds. So, if you say, well, their example here is pain and blessing, pain and pleasure. So, pain and blessing, pain and pleasure. So B and B, P and P. Now, it just has to sound the same. If there would happen to be another letter combination that sounded exactly like B, it would be alliteration. I can't think of one right now. They're not usually going to give you one like that, but pain and blessing, pain and pleasure. This set is alliteration. This set is alliteration. All right, and alliteration has to normally be in the same line or somewhere very closely related. You can't pick out a B in this line and then come down here somewhere and there happens to be another B. That's not alliteration. Alliteration is where beginning letters are used on purpose close together, maybe in a set to make some poetic emphasis. So another example they have here is silently snowflakes are sifting, softening sounds in their sweeping embrace. All right, and they purposely used an S because it's quiet, and they want to say silently snowflakes are sifting. All right, you get the feel. And then the next line there in your example, they start with a B. Boldly, the blizzard is blasting the earth. So they're purposely using alliteration with the letter B because it's harder. And so they go from something silently, softly happening to boldly, the blizzard is blasting, blinding. All right, you get the idea. Now the next thing they talk about is assonance. Now assonance is similar to alliteration, but assonance is a vowel sound and its repetition, and it has to be in an accented syllable. All right. So assonance cannot be, if you have a pattern like this, the the ones that match have to be on the accented syllable. All right. You can't pick out an ah sound that's here and here. All right. That doesn't make assonance. It has to be on an accented syllable. So we'll just show you their example here. And this, they might not necessarily be in the same line. They should be similar, like close, not like one here and one here. All right. There's going to be, the farthest apart they should probably be is one in each line. So the example they have given you here is, O Lord, sustain us through this day. Delusion broods our human souls. So there they have one in this line, and then they have three in this line, and they all tie together. The fools who hated truth have gone astray. So they have, all right. I should have written that up so you can see, but you can see in your book on page 347 there at the bottom how that works. So sometimes they'll have a couple in a line, and then they'll have maybe one in the next line, and they all go together. All right, and listen to, so, oh Lord, sustain us through this day. It's on an accented syllable. Delusion broods or human souls. All right, all the oohs are on accented syllables, therefore they can be counted as assonants. All right, now they do say, oh, so on that one we were just talking about, Lord sustain us through this day, delusion breeds our human souls. If you notice on the last line, the fools who hated truth, who in that phrase has that same sound as all the others, but since it's on an unaccented syllable, it does not count in the assonance. All right, there's an example of a word that has the right sound, but it's not in an accented syllable. All right, another thing they talk about is natural words and word order, and this can make a poem good or not good. So the easiest thing to do when writing a poem is to not use natural words in word order. If you read a lot of amateur poems, they're going to have a lot of een and or instead of even and over. All right. So they give you an example here. The first one, life's troubled sea, I'm daily soaring o'er. Um, Winds fiercely blow and waves are rising high, but fear I'll not, for Jesus goes before. Okay, it's not natural to say, but fear I'll not. You would normally say, I will not fear. You won't say, fear I will not. So, what you want to do when you're writing poetry is try to get it as close to natural word order as possible, and it will express. It'll it will make better poetry. So then they have another one that says a very similar thing, but they have the words like in normal word order, like you would normally say. I'm sailing over life's tempestuous sea, though winds blow wild and waves are rising high. I will not fear, for Christ doth pilot me. He'll lead me to those mansions in the sky. And just think about this, the last two lines of the first one. But fear I'll not, for Jesus goes before, and me he'll lead to mansions in the sky. Now think about this one. I will not fear, for Christ doth pilot me. He'll lead me to those mansions in the sky. You can see how it just sounds better, makes more sense um, to put it in natural word order. And the last thing in poetry they want to talk to you about in this lesson is refrains. And refrains are basically choruses, or it's when somebody has, usually to make some sort of special effect, they'll take a couple lines and they'll repeat them after every single um, stanza. So, and you're used to this with songs. You'll sing a verse and then you have that refrain or the chorus at the end. They give you one here, this poem, Voyagers, a maker of the mighty deep, whereon our vessels fare, above our life's adventure keep thy faithful watch and care. And then here's the refrain, in thee we trust, whate'er befall, thy sea is great, our boats are small. Next one, we know not where the secret tides will help us or delay, nor where the lurking tempest hides, nor where the fogs are gray. And then the refrain, we trust in thee, whate'er befall, thy sea is great, our boats are small. All right. Um, One thing they did say about a refrain is when you are picking the rhyming pattern, like going down through A, B, C, B, a refrain, you count it as rhyming, even though the words are exactly the same. Um, read that little section there at the end, just see if you can make sense of that. So normally when two words are the same, they aren't really considered a rhyme. But in the case of a refrain where it's at the end of every stanza, you do keep it like um, the same letter throughout the whole poem. All right, applying the lesson. Read these poems, do the exercises that follow each one. It's pretty simple. They want you to pick out a set of words with assonance. Make sure they're on accented syllables. They want you to pick out a set of words with alliteration. Make sure that they are in the same line, or pretty close to each other anyway. And then they want you to copy the words used as a refrain throughout the stanza. So basically that should be pretty easy for you to do as well. All right. Just scanning through here, seeing if there's anything I think that you will Miss, I don't know that there is. In the review, copy the correct participle for each sentence. It says lesson 81. You might need to step back to lesson 81 there and just figure out what a participle is again. So, letter A, number 1. Grandfather Williams, recovering or recovered from his recent stroke, is starting to walk again. So you want to think about, is he totally recovered if he's learning to walk, or is he still recovering? In this case, he's still recovering apparently because he's still learning to walk. So you would say Grandfather Williams recovering from his recent stroke. You want to pick the one that makes sense. Like in the next one, growing and grown. All right, one's happening, one's already done. Make sure you pick the right ones. All right, they want to make sure you know how to use commas in part B. And then in part C, they want you to correct the mistakes. I want to just look at number 3 because you've had a pretty rough time with things like round and perfect. And I'm trying to think, there's some others that you can't. Okay, so you can't be round as round. Either it's round or it's not round. You can't say it's rounder. There's nothing like rounder. It's more nearly round. There's nothing like something being perfect or perfecter or more perfect. It's either perfect or it's not perfect. Therefore, number 3, Brother Paul's cornfield looks more perfect than any other I know of. No, you can't have something that's perfect and more perfect. If it's perfect, it's already reached as perfection. So you need to say, Brother Paul's cornfield looks more nearly perfect than any other I've seen. It's the closest to perfect I've ever seen. All right? So there's a couple words like that you need to watch out for when you are picking different degrees of adverbs. All right, hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.